training with his teacher, LC, for a good while here. Wonderful meditator and probably one of the best people I know on getting this kind of off the cushion and into your daily life. So, yeah. And am I missing anything? Thank you so much. It's all yours.
Yeah. Oh, this is on. So never used to the microphone. Phil reminded me about the phone. I do have like a notification that comes off like every hour, so, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off, or forgot, so it's probably gonna go off around 1, just so you guys know. But let's start with the sit though. Is that okay? Yeah? Alright. Just do a quick one. So I'll signal the start of the meditation with 1 ring of the bell and the end with 3. Just allow yourselves to settle into a comfortable position. Ideally one that allows you to feel both at ease and alert. I like to begin by bringing the attention just into the body as a whole. It's just allowing your awareness to settle into the body. Just knowing the sensations of the body. If it feels more comfortable to settle on one part of the body, feel free to do so. You can also just know that the body is here. This is what it feels like to have a body. This is what it feels like to feel through a body. If you have found it helpful in your practice, you are also free to do some body scans, starting from the top of the head, and scanning at whatever pace feels right for you, down to the toes. As you do so, you can just allow each part of the body to relax as best as it can in the moment. Just giving it permission to relax. Right now we are here. We are safe. It's okay. sitting right now? What does it feel like to be sitting? Can you feel the clothes on your skin? The temperature of the air? Next, I would like to invite you to start noticing the sensations of breath in the body. If you're accustomed to focusing on one part of the body from which to observe the breath, do so. Start with that. Traditionally, this could be tip of the nose, the upper lip, the throat, the chest, the belly. And try to be gentle. There's no need to force. To hold our attention there. Just a light touch is enough. Just knowing the breath. Right now, breathing is happening. This is what the in-breath feels like. This is what the out-breath feels like. Just that is enough. Just relax. Let the mind do its job. Wandering mind will wander, and the thinking mind will think. Concentrated mind will concentrate. The knowing mind can just know all of that. Whatever's happening, it's okay. Just occasionally check in. What is the mind aware of right now? see it clearly. It could just be as simple as this. I know this is happening. This feeling, this sensation, this breath. At this point, I'd like to invite everyone to try opening their eyes. And as you do, just know that seeing is happening. If your attention goes to a particular site, just know that looking is happening. Notice where your eyes tend to wander. You don't have to control anything. You're just cultivating the knowing in the present moment. you like, you can also try looking around. And as you do, I'd like to encourage you to maybe keep part of your attention on your feelings. So notice how feelings change depending on what objects we see or what objects we're in contact with. Perhaps some things that you see will bring up a memory, an emotion. If you happen to make eye contact with anyone, what does that feel like? If you're avoiding eye contact with anyone, what does that feel like? I will ring the bell to signal the end of the formal practice. But I'd like to encourage everyone to maintain this mindfulness, just a gentle knowing of what's happening. So just like right now, when we have our eyes open, we're also listening to what I'm saying. We can still know, we can still be aware. This is what it feels like to be listening. This is what it feels like to have feelings about what we're hearing, about our thoughts. And so as we end this formal period of practice, let's try not to think of it as the end of the meditation, rather the start of the next one. Notice the feelings as we hear the bell. How does the mind react to thinking that the meditation is over? Adjust this. Thank you all for your practice. How's everyone feeling? Okay. The temperature is really nice in here. Wasn't sure if I'd be cold or warm. It's just really nice. My name is JC. As Phil graciously introduced me, but like you said too, my primary form of practice is emphasizes practice in daily life. It really isn't that much of a distinction, I like to say, but I think it's helpful to categorize it in that way too. So as my teacher and her teacher likes to say, meditation is the work of the mind, and so it doesn't matter what posture we're in, doesn't matter what we're doing. It's just knowing what's happening. And so we can do that with our eyes closed when we're sitting, and those are specific conditions which allow us to practice in a specific way. But when we're moving, when we're going about our lives, they offer unique opportunities to practice in other conditions. And so if we focus too much on one versus the other, practice can become unbalanced. And we start creating ideas about what meditation is and what conditions are ideal for meditation. What is meditation? Does anyone want to answer? There's no wrong answer. Or maybe there are. Yeah, maybe take a minute and kind of just explore your feelings about meditation, your ideas about meditation. How do you define meditation? And I feel like there's a couple ways to answer this. There's a more theoretical way. We have an idea of what meditation is supposed to be or what we're aspiring for when we practice, and what we actually believe meditation is in the moment when we decide to meditate. And that's harder to know, but we can get an idea of what we think meditation is. And like I said, there's no wrong answer, mostly. It's a helpful question to ask ourselves. How do we define meditation? So I can start by answering. So my theoretical answer would be, so this answer is based on what I've learned, right? And so I'm bringing up memories, bringing up ideas, and because this is an answer I've kind of repeated, there's a certain feeling associated with it. It's to cultivate good qualities. And what those good qualities are, can differ from person to person. But in the Buddhist context, it would be the spiritual faculties. So essentially cultivating wholesome qualities, such as mindfulness, concentration, or tranquility, faith, or confidence in the practice. That's a very theoretical answer. When I close my eyes, or with my eyes open, but when I sit down to meditate, I try to change my experience. And I know I'm not supposed to, but a part of me believes that that's what meditation is. I should feel better after meditating. Or I feel like I should be able to know things clearly. And this changes from moment to moment too. I think that every time I decide to meditate, it can be a little different. But I do notice certain ideas creeping in that just kind of affect my meditation in the background. And these ideas are always going to be there, but they'll change over time too. So I know in the past my definition was to feel calmer when I first started, right? And that's a very common definition, internal definition, and it's very valid as well, because we do feel calmer a lot of times, or to be more present. Even to know what is happening has a certain flavor that changes. A part of my mind still wants to know certain things more than it wants to know other things. But once I am aware of that, then I know that that's what my mind wants. And that's how the mind learns. So does anyone else want to answer?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Is like, when you mentioned about cultivating qualities, they were like primal, like paying attention to almost like ancestral knowledge, this idea that meditation helps build, sort of outcomes, make a connection between building more synapses between meditation. I think just personally it's paying attention, and it's this mind sensations, phenomena. I wouldn't say primal combinations, but ancestral, collective, knowing. Just generations of evolution. So, I remember back in the day, I thought it was science of the mind, There's foundations of that. Collective and ancestral. Awareness. And then we know knowledge is just awareness of sensation. Be aware of looking. I can get use the eyes or something. Reacted. And something you saw. Maybe a little bit
you. Yeah, like you answered kind of both questions in there, so we're both the theoretical and kind of in the moment definitions of meditation. I appreciate it. Does anyone else? Yeah, Phil.
I'll go with tapping into the old suttas where Buddha's watching far in the plow field and he's sitting under a rose apple tree and he has this snap moment of watching things as they are, seeing them with no real connotations and notions. He's just having this moment of clarity, seeing everything as it is. So, yeah, once again, back to trying, right? You shouldn't want to try, but also kind of sort of do. Kind of looking for that rose apple tree moment, letting things be as they are, where I can be in a space where I can see the internal monologue yammering away and feel the body, see the room, feel the people around me, and be in this state of passivity and just sensing all of this. I may not be able to shut off the voices in my head, that constant internal monologue, that internal thought process that keeps rambling along, but I can pull back and watch it just like everything else, and kind of be in this spot of passivity, rather than actively thinking about anything, just stepping away. To me, that's the ideal, if there is an ideal. that's where I like to be. If that happens during the sit, that's a beautiful thing. If that happens for, I'm occasionally able to do that for all of about 3 seconds. And then everything kind of tumbles around, then I kind of pull it back a little bit, and here I am passive for a little bit. I'll figure it out. Yeah, that's the route that I keep. That's the lighthouse that I keep aiming for.
So perhaps your internal or unconscious definition of meditation is aiming for that. Perhaps. Have to kind of just investigate a bit. Thank you. That's a really good answer. I appreciate your kind of knowledge of like Buddhism and like the background and stuff. Some of these suttas are really juicy. It's really cool. But yeah, thank you. Yes.
I think for me, on a personal level, it was the intention when I first started was to really dial down the nervous system, some of the general anxiety and worries and fears. Of course, a lot of us all carry that with us, but it was a time when I really needed to really work on that. I think that when I first started, it was, like I said, pursuing a sense of calm, and then as I continued to do it and learn how to, I guess the experience of it more and staying with the present, I felt that I was able to start peeling back some of the layers of life experience, whether it's good or bad or hurt, and just feeling more of a present and a better, more quality essence of just kind of being, Sometimes to me it is kind of that flash of that movie, what I felt like as a child before you build all these other, again, like life experiences and pains and fears and hurts and traumas, and there's this sort of like innocence before those sensory things that you're just seeing before all of that begins to pile up. And like Phil said, there can be glimpses of that, but then there's also just this state of just relaxation, just sort of in it. That's just my reflection.
Thank you. Yes.
I like the theoretical and practical of like the analogy of physical exercise, taking care of the body and focusing on the body with strength, regulates neural impulse, and then eat healthy to clean your system, and then meditation is just like a practice of the mind to be aware of what's happening. Sometimes to accept it, but mostly awareness. I really love Phil. Phil was kind of stimulating on that with his words about witnessing the thoughts without engaging in them or judging them, and then that's really cool. That's pretty much.
Yeah, thank you. I love exercise too. That's part of that's kind of what my career is based on. But I do love the analogy of meditation and kind of exercise. I would say like kind of what I'm talking about with our definition of meditation, right? Or like what's happening in meditation, the theoretical versus what's happening in the moment. It'd be kind of like an exercise. Like if you're working out, the theoretical would be I'm working out my biceps or something, right? But in the moment, we're lifting the weight. That's it. Right? We're bending the elbow, bringing it up, or whatever exercise we're doing. But there's so many great analogies between the two. So thank you for that. Yeah, I remember. Might come up with more later. Anyone else? Yeah, that's okay. So I like to bring this up too. This is a question my teachers asked a few times, because we all have definitions about meditation, and they are all helpful and they're all necessary. But when we sit down to meditate, we have an idea, whether consciously or unconsciously, that we are meditating, right? We're sitting down, we're setting the intention to meditate. As my teacher pointed out, what's actually meditating is our definition of meditation. It's not just that our definition of meditation limits our meditation. It's literally what meditates. The information that we have in the background is what the mind uses to meditate, right? And so that changes, from moment to moment, or as we progress in our practice. But being or practicing or just making the habit of checking in to see what the mind is doing when it meditates can help us learn a lot about what our ideas of meditation are. And the point of knowing these things, just like what Phil was saying too, it's not necessarily to do anything about it, and it's not even to be passive about it necessarily either. Everything just kind of happens on its own, whether we're passive or impassive, right? But the passivity that we talk about, or the equanimity, or the impersonal nature of looking at objects, comes from just the moment of knowing. There's nothing we have to add to that. So in the same way, we can be aware of impassivity, right? So my teacher's also fond of saying, in relation to any emotion, if we're angry, she says, let the angry mind be angry. Like, how would we learn about anger if we don't allow ourselves to be angry? So whatever's happening in the moment. But the mind is going to have its own desires. So perhaps let's say we are angry, or let's say in the moment we are focusing on the breath, and we can all do that right now. As you're listening, you can also know that breathing is happening, right? And you may notice that there is a desire to know the breathing, or a desire to hear what I'm saying, or understand what I'm saying. And the moment you know that, that is meditation. And then we start to learn a bit about what our unconscious mind wants in this situation. So let's say we're watching the breath, and the mind goes to a thought. So unconsciously, we want it to think, right? And then we bring the breath, the attention back to the breath. Let's say that happens. And that means behind there's an idea that we're supposed to be on the breath. I'm realizing right now that I feel like might be getting into, I might be overcomplicating it too. I feel like, yeah, meditation can be so profound that it's almost impossible not to overcomplicate it, right? And that's why it's so important to relax and be simple about it. So right now, do we all know that we're sitting? And if you're looking at anything, do you know that you're looking? Before we go into kind of some of the activities I have planned today too, I have a few stations that are kind of set up, so we'll probably split up. We'll do this in a bit, maybe like another 10-15 minutes or so. And I'll explain those. I like to kind of go over, so we're going to go into the theoretical side a bit, or the intellectual side, go over some kind of definitions to kind of help, form a context for maybe some explanations or instructions I give. I want to start by kind of talking in the Buddhist context about meditation, right? So like what we've been doing. But I like to think about, in the Buddhist context, the Buddhist practice, that there are generally just two types of meditation. One is Vipassanā, one is Shamatha. So Vipassanā is often translated as mindfulness or insight meditation, and that is just knowing what's happening in the moment. Shamatha, or can also be called a samadhi or jhana practice, is concentration or tranquility practice. And so it is helpful because you can practice these both at the same time, and they're both very important and actually crucial in the practice. But the difference is just the intention, right? So for example, what my primary practice is Vipassanā, so mindfulness of whatever we're doing. Shamatha would be cultivating tranquility, and we usually do that through concentration on a single point. So that could be the body if you're ever practiced, with mindfulness of breathing, staying on the breath, right? Coming back to the breath, coming back to the breath. If you practice walking meditation, knowing the sensations of the foot each time you step. And there's many ways to practice tranquility meditation that way. But the purpose of that is to gather the mind so that things become clearer, things become simpler. And the purpose of Vipassanā, or mindfulness practice, is cultivating awareness. And so we can do those both at the same time. So with some of the activities, and I can go over them briefly right now. So I have a few stations. For example, right over here I have some towels and blankets, or yoga blankets. I'm gonna have a couple people go over there and start folding them. And as we do, we can practice just knowing, right? So we know the sensations in our hands. We know our intention to fold in a certain way. We can know whatever feelings arise. If you want to get the corners just right, or whatever happens. But we can also just keep our attention on one object too. And so it's up to you. I'm going to kind of leave it flexible. However you want to practice and experiment. You can also just root your attention on the sensations, for example. And that would be a concentration practice. And every time your mind wanders, you come back to that, just the sensation in the hands. Another station we're going to have is going to be a writing station. So I just on that white table right there around the corner, I have a notebook and a pen. And then, probably just one person over there. Actually, we could tear off a couple sheets of paper. We'll see how it kind of divides up. But I like to, whoever's in that station, and we're going to take turns, I like everyone to do every station, to just kind of make a journal entry. It's very flexible, and you're not going to read it or anything, or, you can take it home, you can throw it away afterwards. So write whatever you want, but in that same way, you can keep your attention just on the sensation of the pen, the pressure of the pen on the paper, whatever you want, right? So you can kind of anchor your attention while you're doing an activity. But you can also know the feelings while you are writing. You can notice how the mind works, how thinking works when you start putting your thoughts on paper. And it's really interesting. If you don't know what to write, I would suggest writing what you're aware of in the moment. That's a really cool practice. It's kind of like if you've ever practiced inside dialogue or talking meditation. We usually start off by just saying what we're aware of right now. So I'm aware, for example, I'm aware that I'm seeing, I'm aware that I'm looking at you. I'm aware that I just had a little bit of anxiety, and I'm trying to, the mind wants to come up with the next thing to say. So whatever is coming up in the moment, right? And you can just write that down. And it's a pretty fun exercise if you don't have anything to write about. Another one will be reading. And so I'll also put a book right there. And whoever's doing the reading, you can just take that book or take another book off the shelf. I just kind of grabbed a random book. And start at any page and read. As you're reading, what you can do is keep your attention on sensation. Sensation's always a nice anchor point. So just knowing the hand that's holding the book, you can feel the weight of the book. But also know what it feels like to be intaking that information. How is the mind reacting to what you're reading? Is there an intention to try to get information out of it? Is there intention to focus? So the nice thing about all these activities is also the point isn't how we perform, right? So I don't care if you guys don't do a great job folding the blankets, or if you don't get any information out of the reading, you just got distracted the whole time, it doesn't matter, right? If you don't write like the greatest novel when you're doing the writing, it doesn't matter. The point is just to cultivate tranquility, cultivate present moment knowing. So whatever you know is fine. Okay. And I had one more station. Yes, sweeping, thank you. I got a broom back there. That's a really nice one too. So just have a little space right there. And then so one person will be sweeping. As you're sweeping, sensation, you can anchor yourself on the sensation. Sweeping and folding the blankets are kind of similar because there's kind of a pattern to it, kind of a repetition, right? So you can anchor your attention on the sensation of the broom or the blankets. You can also anchor the attention on just the movement of the pattern. So experiment with that as well. And with all of these, we're going to be using, all our sense doors. It's going to be touching, hearing, looking, seeing, happening. Just notice where the mind goes as we're doing that. So let's see, we have 4 stations right now. So we have 9 people. So I guess with the broom we can only have one person, but for the blankets maybe we can have 2 or 3 people. The reading we can have like a couple of people as well, and with the riding we can probably have 1 or 2 people. Let me see. I'm trying to do math right now and it doesn't feel pleasant. Yeah. Before we go into that, are there any questions about the activities?
Since we've got a little bit of an uneven break here.
Yeah.
And I was a teacher for forever. We may want to open this up to if we've got anybody kind of left over, then that's a reading group.
Yeah. That's the point. Yeah.
Kind of divvy it up to where we've got.
Yeah. Why don't we? Maybe we could just have one person per station. Yeah, and the rest kind of do reading. Yeah, and then we kind of come back to that. I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to try whatever activity they want to do. So. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, and I guess Sky, if you want to start with the the blankets right there, and Clem, you want to? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just call it out. I forgot to ask at the beginning, but is anyone new to meditation? Very good. Right. How was that for everyone? Okay. Would anyone like to share anything interesting they noticed?
Yeah, I love in the opening sit, I guess they're like metacognitive factors, just you're constantly slowing things down, observing how you're receiving my words, but shift, like all of these like micro awarenesses that are really helpful in daily life. They're all just in default mode.
Yes, yeah.
Late, gotta go fast, why is this person doing slow? Why is this person doing that? Why am I doing this? And instead of just, I'm doing that thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the things that they're doing? And then it just washes off forward. It's so beautiful. So I like how you slow things down and allow for more slowing down in awareness. And it just kept kind of cascading deeper and deeper. So I felt more and more present in the world.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. How are the activities?
Yeah, I guess to extend that cascade of slowness, spaciousness, awareness, then to blend it into all the activities. And I cracked up when you're like, I noticed you're going slower to be more.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, we all do it, yeah.
All those awarenesses, So and how am I writing? I wrote with my left hand to try to.
Nice, yeah, that's fun, right? Yeah, make it fun. We gotta make it fun. Meditation, I feel like is boring by definition, right? So we gotta make it interesting. Thank you. Anyone else?
My 2 takeaways from this were like, what a judgment dick I am sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm reading the book and I'm like, oh, look at this pretentious guy and the way he writes, gives everybody all this dialogue like this, like New York Times bestseller, and I'm like, how many New York Times bestsellers have you written? None? 0? All right, man. It's funny because I fall into that like critical shit.
Yeah.
So that was a little eye-opening, and being really into what I was doing, kind of sweeping, and how I fall into this like chewing on problems while sweeping. Really internally aware, and then Tara's like, hey, you're very mindfully fuzzy, and he's like, these blankets are full of stuff. And I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I didn't even, like, I'm so like wrapped up in the internal that I don't even see stuff that's clinging on to me.
Oh my god.
That's interesting. I'm still aware. Really? Well, you got all this shit over here.
Yeah.
Aware, huh, Phil? So back to criticism, right?
Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Because what we're doing right here is, or attempting to do is just cultivate awareness, right? Just the momentum awareness, being more aware and more continuously aware. So it's you may have seen in like the title of my my talks. I always have cultivating continuity because continuity is so important, and continuity is it kind of happens on its own in the background, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that too. But I feel like in my experience when I'm practicing meditation, no matter what I think I know about meditation, there is kind of a hope or an expectation that I will achieve some results very quickly. You know, so like I sit down to meditate, and part of my mind will keep checking back. It was like, well, if I'm really present, why is this feeling still here, you know, or why aren't I feeling more present, or why aren't I having more insights, you know? It's just like I expect something to, you know, to happen, right? And then that's something that we can know if that comes up. But what I've learned, and this is such a powerful kind of lesson for me, is that what's actually happening that's of benefit, I'm not conscious of, right? And it almost like sounds like it takes some like kind of faith, you know. It's like somewhere in the background, you know, we're cultivating something like wholesome and stuff. There was a period when I kind of this is like just like a year ago or less than a year ago, where I wasn't practicing formally very much for like a number of months. I like kind of have a history of addiction, so I had like a lot, and that expresses itself in a lot of behaviors, right? So like I would like during that period, I'd kind of let myself slip into all these behaviors that are like, you know, just, and of course I'm like judging myself, and like not really wanting to sit down, meditate. And the whole time I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be aware that, you know, and it doesn't feel pleasant because I'm just like, I'm aware, but so what? And like, it's not feeling any better. It's not doing anything, you know, like I'm still doing these behaviors and stuff. And then I went on retreat, and then like in the like second day of my retreat, the momentum, like, cause all it took was just, okay, like I was building that awareness in the background. I just wasn't conscious of what it was doing. But the moment I was in the space to kind of settle down a little bit, because normally in retreat, for those of you that have been on like longer retreats, it takes a while to settle down too, right? It takes like 2-3 days or so. And how we go into retreat really affects how, you know, the retreat, how that settling down process unfolds. But it just shocked me like how the continuity was being cultivated. I just wasn't giving myself credit for it, and I wasn't feeling good while I was doing it. But the moment I had a little bit of tranquility, you know, and, from the retreat setting, all that became so clear. And it's just like, so it's hard to describe, but it's like, yeah, it really kind of reminded me that I have no idea what's happening, you know? And that sounds like kind of contradictory almost, you know? Or a lot of things, I feel like a lot of statements are kind of contradictory in Buddhist philosophy, but by design. But yeah, it's like I really have no idea what's going on in the background, but I think I do, and I keep thinking I do, and that's just part of the mind's job too, and then we can give it grace. So yeah. So that's why I like to, real quick, yeah, that's why I just really like to emphasize cultivating that awareness, whatever we know. And it feels like it's not doing anything sometimes. Like it's like, you know, when I'm like, yeah, if I'm like talking to someone, I know the sensation of my hand, what is that doing, right? It's like, am I being a better person? Am I, you know, whatever. But it is doing something, you know, just something that simple. We're cultivating awareness. And I do promise you that if you keep up this practice, you know, at any moment you can. Like the beautiful thing about this is you can do it while you're doing anything. And it's so simple. All it requires is remembering, right? Which is why definition of mindfulness, sati, is memory, is remembering. We just have to remember what's happening right now. But once you remember, then the practice is there, right? And so don't be too hard on yourself, and don't try too hard. And if you do, you can be aware of that. You can still cultivate awareness. So Clem, what are you gonna ask?
No, just a reflection on like what you're saying about being aware. I don't like doing chores. I think just like felt that,
Nice.
So good. It's things are true, It's like things are great.
Yeah.
It's not fun to do, so it's like, that's not big deal. Yeah. Some things just feel better.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta do it all,
Yeah.
Just learn from our actions. Have fun.
Yeah, definitely. Have fun. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I think the activities also help as a reminder of things that we'll always have to fold clothes, we'll always have to wash dishes. Thinking of them as like, something I can do. We're always going to have to do that, so why not just like make the best of it and be present and practice this, then maybe it won't be such a daunting thing to do.
Yeah.
Just like with the folding that. Right now I have clothes at home. I've been sitting on my bed for 3 or 4 days, and it's like, now I'm going to approach it in a different way.
So that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the elevator in our apartment building is really slow, and kind of the social etiquette. I mean, you don't know a lot of these people. It's just also sad that we don't know our neighbors in a larger context. So when we're in the elevator, kind of the common refrain is, this elevator takes so long. So when people say that, I say, what a great spiritual opportunity to not pull out your phone. And to just say, I'm getting anxious, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, or I'm grateful for this opportunity. And then even in the elevator, to again not pull out my phone and breathe, focus on my breath, and then see other people on their phone. I think everybody else is a robot, and I'm in this present, and then go, I'm judging.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm grateful to share that because I'm cultivating these practices, but I'm not in a lot of communities. Thank you, Phil and Tara, to whatever process as well. I'm in a lot of communities to share my practices, what I'm doing, so it's cool to say it out loud and realize, that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Even now, just realizing, I think
It's such a beautiful feeling, That's why I love spiritual communities. Just feels like the context is so different that, But thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions or comments, if you want to share about your experience with any of the activities or anything?
I used to do it a lot, and then I just doing it right now. I was like, I haven't done this in a long time.
And you were being judgmental.
Honestly. But no, I used to do this. There's a thing called passion planner, and I would get one every single freaking year, and then be like everybody else, start really good about it, and then not even halfway through very good with it. And I'm like, so maybe.
Thank you.
With mindful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, anything can be, right? And that's something that I'm still learning because I still have. I noticed that I think it was a few weeks ago. I was at my teacher's group, and I'll give a shout out and stuff afterwards too, because I'd love to kind of invite you all to practice with our group too. But it was one moment I remember I was reaching for my chapstick in my fanny pack, and then I just became aware that there was an idea of there was suddenly a feeling that I should be more aware. And then I was and when I saw that happening as it happened, I was that's when I stopped the practice, right? The practice ended right there because I took on that belief. But then I saw it, but it's like, I'm constantly like, my teacher also uses the analogy that like our definition of meditation is like a bowl, right? And so the shape of the bowl will change as we practice more, but no matter where we are, whatever our definition is, we can only meditate on when things fit into that bowl, right? And so like my experience and I hope some of your experiences today is finding the edges of that bowl, right? So like where are we stopping ourselves when we're practicing? At what point, like self-judgment, I feel like is a very common thing for me as a recovering addict. But there's many things that when I experience this, I feel like something is wrong and I can't practice like this. Something needs to change for me to practice. And it really just takes a moment of like realizing that that's happening and stepping back just a little bit, and practice can continue. Right? So it doesn't matter what is happening. Yeah. Yes.
This reminds me, I don't know, I read it out of this book, but it's like, I was like, Japanese meditation lineage, and it just kept saying over like, this is just the right way. I don't know what this how to like. This is how you do it. It's like I'm not gonna explain it. You have to have like zazen, like beginner's mind. But that's it. You sit like this and you do this. I feel like I guess sometimes folks need the bowls, edges to be defined. The Mandalorian.
We do.
This is the way. I just love the Mandalorian because we're just like random, like nice structure, but there's so many different bowls out there. It's on WikiHow.
Yeah, exactly.
Meditate, right? Nice little pictures of coffee.
I feel like that's
bowls. Yeah. No, go ahead. There's so many bowls out there.
There are, and in here, right? I feel like that's something that I've kind of heard too a lot, is that there's specific ways that Westerners, we approach meditation. So my teacher's from Vietnam, but she's practiced with, all over Asia for the majority of her life. And she often kind of brings up that it's just a very different approach. So the way we approach meditation needs to be a little different too. I feel like for a lot of people that grow up with Buddhism maybe, or in a certain setting, they can just use that approach. Like, this is the way, and then they believe in it. But we like to question, we like to doubt, we're always like, we're very intellectual about things, and we want to be precise in our culture, or at least that's what I found. So that might not work for us, right? I wish it did. I wish I just kind of like really believed and just like, came from that background. I think our conditions provide a very unique doorway to practice too. I think my teacher also brought up, she said like what she's found different about teaching Western versus Eastern meditators though, is that Easterners tend to, our strengths are different. Easterners have a lot of faith, especially the ones that grew up in Buddhism. So like, it's like the monk tells them what to do, or the teacher tells them what to do. They believe this is the right thing to do, right? Kind of like what Clement was saying. But for Westerners, she feels that we're very strong in wisdom because we have a very inquiring minds and we have a lot of doubt. So that is our strength. But we do struggle with faith a bit, especially depending on your background as well and stuff. So, but they're both advantages, and we only have what conditions we have too. And the practice is the same no matter what conditions we have. Any other questions? Thank you all. Thank you so much. Real quick, I guess I'm going to turn over to Phil or someone for the announcements and stuff. But